Je voudrais du soleil vert, des dentelles et des théières, des photos de bord de mer, dans mon jardin d'hiver. Je voudrais de la lumière, comme en Nouvelle-Angleterre. Je veux changer d'atmosphère, dans mon jardin d'hiver. Ma fleur sous la pluie de novembre, tes mains qui courent, je n'en peux plus de t'attendre. Les années passent, qu'il est loin, là je tombe. Nul ne peut nous entendre. Je voudrais du Fred Astaire, revoir un latte Goël.
Well, it was a day of high crimes for the President of the United States. The Congress that adopted articles of impeachment in the House Judiciary Committee against President Richard Nixon would have used each of the president's tweets today about Robert Mueller's investigation as a separate article of impeachment against this president. Today, the President of the United States committed a crime in public, on Twitter, a federal crime, an impeachable high crime. The question now is not whether the president is a criminal or whether the president is impeachable. The question now is, has America lost its mind? Has America lost its legal mind? Have Donald Trump and Trumpism and fanatical Trump voters so unbalanced the United States of America that the law does no longer apply to the President of the United States? And the answer might be yes. The answer might be yes, because there was no new collective cry in Congress today for impeaching the president after he committed a crime in public. That is the benefit the president is now reaping from his years of utterly insane and reckless tweeting, beginning with his pathological lying about President Obama's birth certificate on Twitter. Twitter is the forum where the president lies more than anywhere else. And so the country has grown used to the president being crazy on Twitter, just outright crazy. The country has grown accustomed to shrugging off Trump tweets filled with madness, spelling mistakes, and inexplicable quotation marks. In his most criminal tweet of the day today, Donald Trump actually put quotation marks around the words President Trump, as if he's not really president. Such is the dementia of a Trump tweet, and so Trump tweets are not taken seriously. But are they not taken seriously to the point that Donald Trump can commit a crime on Twitter and it will be ignored? Ignored by the special prosecutor who is investigating Donald Trump? Here is the most criminal Trump tweet of the day. I will never testify against Trump. This statement was recently made by Roger Stone, essentially stating that he will not be forced by a rogue and out-of-control prosecutor to make up lies and stories about President Trump. Nice to know that some people still have guts. Article 1 of the impeachment articles adopted by the House Judiciary Committee against President Nixon said, in his conduct of the office of the President of the United States, Richard M. Nixon, in violation of his constitutional oath faithfully to execute the office of the President of the United States and to the best of his ability preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States, and in violation of his constitutional duty to take care that the laws be faithfully executed, has prevented, obstructed, and impeded the administration of justice. That was Article 1. Article 1 specified that the president, quote, using the powers of his high office, engaged personally and through his close subordinates and agents in a course of conduct or plan designed to delay, impede, and obstruct the investigation. Count 5 of Article 1 of the Nixon impeachment articles said the president should be impeached and removed from office for, quote, obtaining the silence or influencing the testimony of witnesses. influencing the testimony of witnesses. That is what Donald Trump was doing today. That is what Donald Trump has been doing publicly and has expressed sympathies for Paul Manafort while Paul Manafort was on trial. The president was trying to influence a federal criminal jury in Paul Manafort's case with tweets. That would have been an impeachment count against Richard Nixon if Richard Nixon did that, because the Congress that moved against Richard Nixon had not lost its collective mind and stopped caring about the rule of law. Donald Trump has publicly dangled a pardon in front of Paul Manafort, saying that he's thinking about it. The president is thinking about it. It's not off the table. The president is obviously hoping that Paul Manafort does not tell Robert Mueller anything incriminating that he knows about Donald Trump. Count 9 of Article 1 of the impeachment articles against President Nixon said the president should be impeached and removed from office for, quote, endeavoring to cause prospective defendants and individuals duly tried and convicted to expect favored treatment and consideration in return for their silence or false testimony. Donald Trump is guilty of that beyond a reasonable doubt. And so the question is, has America lost its mind? Has America lost its legal mind? Has the United States Congress lost its mind? That is what Donald Trump is counting on. That he has driven America and the Congress crazy to the point that he can commit crimes publicly in writing on Twitter and get away with it. And so he also wrote this today. Michael Cohen asks judge for no prison time. You mean he can do all of the terrible, unrelated to Trump things having to do with fraud, big loans, taxis, etc., and not serve a long prison term? He makes up stories to get a great and already reduced deal for himself and get his wife and father-in-law, who has the money, off scot-free. He lied for this outcome. In my opinion, serve a full and complete sentence. Michael Cohen pleaded guilty to crimes that involve Donald Trump. So that tweet is lying about that. Involved Donald Trump to the point that Donald Trump was named an unindicted co-conspirator in the case where Michael Cohen pleaded guilty for the first time. And so there in that tweet is the President of the United States saying that if you give Special Prosecutor Robert Mueller information against the president, you should be punished as severely as possible. You should serve a full and complete sentence. Richard Nixon would not have dared say something like that publicly because Richard Nixon did not believe that America had lost its legal mind or that the Congress had lost its legal mind. Also today, Donald Trump tweeted, Bob Mueller, who is a much different man than people think, and his out-of-control band of angry Democrats don't want the truth. They only want lies. The truth is very bad for their mission. Count 4 of Article 1 of the Articles of Impeachment passed against President Nixon said that President Nixon should be impeached and removed from office for, quote, interfering or endeavoring to interfere with the conduct of investigations by the Department of Justice of the United States, the Federal Bureau of Investigation, the Office of the Watergate Special Prosecution Force, and congressional committees. Every single one of Donald Trump's now countless public attacks on Robert Mueller, every single Trump tweet attacking Robert Mueller is an impeachable offense according to the Congress that brought articles of impeachment against Richard Nixon, the Congress that did not lose its mind.
It is Tuesday, the 4th of December of 2018, and you are in West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. I am your chef de cuisine, Justice Putnam, and our daily special is Tarrytown Chowder Tuesdays, folks. Just a little smidgen, not a dash, much less than a dash, a smidgen of hot, smoked Hungarian paprika makes all the difference indeed. Go ahead and use the Spanish kind, but Hungarian is, I don't know. The Spanish kind is actually quite lovely. Do try it. Hungarian is what I tend to have in my cupboard. Okay, well, I don't know. I don't like to call him my president, and I'll tell you why. Because the Netroots Radio Style Manual actually precludes us from even saying the P word. So I violated the style manual already by referring to Trump with the P word. But look, let's be clear. That kind of fidgeting you wouldn't allow in your 6-year-old. If you were taking your 6-year-old to a viewing, at the rotunda, that kind of fidgeting would, I gotta tell you, be clamped down on. But I will say that he was a little bit like JFK Jr. in that he saluted. So, of course, JFK Jr. at that time was, I think, like 3. So I don't know. Maybe that's where we're at. That kind of fidgeting. Look, you don't allow it. I got to hand it to Melania, and let's be clear. Melania is a white nationalist birther, and I don't give her any slack. But I will hand it to her in some of the etiquette realm. Is that she did actually try to get Donald. He hates being called that, by the way. Don't call him that. She was trying to get Donald to, calm down, stay there a little bit longer, but he had to get out of there. Had to get out. And that salute, yeah, it wasn't cute, like when JFK Jr. did it. It actually was an insult. Mm-hmm. And maybe that's why he did it. You never know. These people are so heartless, soulless, and apparently mindless. So that's where we are. Hey, all sorts of other news happening out there in the world. I mean, the whole world's blowing up, and there are people working really hard to keep it from blowing up. And some are successful, and other people are, still have to work hard. It looks like Georgia's going to pick a new elections chief amid their voting rights debate. I like that, how that's put. Voting rights debate. And, and of course they should. Now, of course, we know, and David gave a great rundown at the top of his show about North Carolina. And, look, Wisconsin is in, the Republicans in both those states are committing a coup right out in the open. And we have to call it that. It is a coup. Look, the Republicans cannot win, and they have to win at all costs, even if it means destroying democracy. They have this idea that I gotta burn down the village to save the nation. All right, well, it didn't work in Vietnam, and that kind of slash and burn policy is, shall we say, unseemly. Stop fidgeting! Stop fidgeting! The founder of a dating site for Trump bros, or Trump sycophants, is going to sue any liberal who tries to join that app. And I would agree. Any liberal who joins that app should be sued. What the hell are you doing? Get out of there. Well, I know what he's doing it for. He doesn't want any liberals coming in there to muck up his little silo. And I would say, look, you don't need to sue any liberals for joining your app. I would save the money on the retainer on your lawyer for that. Really, I would. But these guys are mindless, soulless, heartless. How would he know? Neil Cattell says that Trump is basically openly threatening witnesses on Twitter, and that is what Lawrence was breaking down at the top here in the Bistro Cafe of West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. Indeed. How many high crimes and misdemeanors that he can tweet will it take before violations of the terms of service are, well, I don't know, beyond an unimpeachable doubt? When? Because he's threatening witnesses out in the open. I know their strategy. If it's out in the open, it's not illegal. I mean, we always hide this stuff, but we're doing it out in the open. See, we're just like citizens. We're not mobsters. We're just like citizens. All right. Well, I can't wait. And we will probably be waiting a long time before these people are put in jail. But I can't wait. I can't wait till they're in jail. What's on the rest of the menu here in the Bistro Cafe part of West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy? Tarrytown Chowder Tuesdays. Well, Trump's Mar-a-Lago cronies are whining about getting busted for the VA scandal. Well, of course they are whining. Jeez. They didn't know that people were going to find out about it or that anyone would care, I think is really what it gets down to. Just days after being banned from entering Australia because of bad character. Think about that. You have to be a pretty bad character to not get into Australia. Proud Boys founder Gavin McInnes finds a new home at Glenn Beck's new media company. I think he's auditioning for state TV, state media operation with Donnie. Or Donald. Don't call him Donald. He hates that. And ICE has threatened New Jersey. Yeah, the whole state, after the state implemented a sweeping pro-immigrant policy. Nice little democracy there. Be a shame if we jackbooted and goose-stepped our way all over your place now, wouldn't it? After the break, we move to the chef's table where Fed Chairman Powell's testimony to Congress this week is postponed due to the National Day of Mourning for former President George H.W. Bush. And they should. That's the way it usually happens. And after a 7-year flight, NASA's deep space probe Osiris-Rex is now orbiting within a dozen miles of a skyscraper-sized asteroid deemed a catastrophic Earth threat in 150 years. All that and more on West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. Bon appetit. Go to the bottom of our homepage at netrootsradio.com, and you will notice to the rightish of the page the chat room link, monitored by Kelly Lincoln, and definitely monitored by Kelly Lincoln, I might add. Thank you, Kelly, for definitely monitoring the chat room link. If you would then take a gander to the leftish of the page from the chat room link at the bottom of our homepage at netrootsradio.com, you will then notice the contribute button. And since this is the season of giving, that's what they keep telling everybody, I thought I should mention that if you could become a recurring Patreon of Netroots Radio, your donation of any size will help us tremendously. And thank you for your generosity. All kidding aside, we need your help, folks. So thank you for helping. It helps pay the bills, and the bills are going up. How dare they? Okay, so do consider becoming a recurring Patreon, and those of you who are, thank you from the bottom of our hearts in this holiday season. Okay, you can follow Netroots Radio on Twitter. Tom takes care of that, and we are on Twitter at Netroots Radio. We're over on Facebook, and you know how I feel about Facebook, but we're there. You can follow me on Twitter at Justice Putnam. I post the show notes and links diary on Daily Co's about 10 minutes before showtime. Check out those show notes and links. They're an integral part of this multimedia operation here at West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. Which reminds me, you can follow West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy on Twitter at Cookbook West. A little different there. We're over on Facebook, and you know how I feel about Facebook, but we're there, such as it is. And most importantly, you can pick up podcasts of the show by way of Spreaker, Stitcher, TuneIn, iTunes, YouTube, iHeart, and wherever fine podcasts can be found. This first offering here at the Bistro Cafe of West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy is out of Share Blue Media by Dan Desai Martin. Well, it seems that entitled rich men are very upset that Mar-a-Lago membership doesn't give them the right to secretly control America's second largest cabinet agency. Secretly. They're out in the open, and you know what happens? Sunlight makes the vermin scatter. Usually. A group of unaccountable members of Trump's Mar-a-Lago resort held enormous sway over the Department of Veteran Affairs until their shadowy cabal came to light. And we have mentioned this before, when that shadowy cabal came to light. And some of the stories that happened afterwards, too. And here's another one. Well, on Monday, that was yesterday, ProPublica reported more details about just how far these rich men's influence reached. And one of those rich men, Marvel Entertainment Chairman Ike Perlmutter, is whining about getting caught. Well, of course, because his whole Marvel franchise can take a dump, especially now that Stan Lee is dead. And he thought that was a good thing, probably, because Stan Lee was a thorn in his side. And it looks like he still is. Perlmutter is displeased with the agency's releasing emails about him and with the course of its electronic health records overhaul. Oh, really? Well, Perlmutter is also reportedly upset that the VA's new secretary, Robert Wilkie, is snubbing him. ProPublica initially exposed the Mar-a-Lago crowd in August, and that's when we talked about it. We did. Describing how Perlmutter, a physician Bruce Moskowitz, and lawyer Mark Sherman held enormous power inside the VA, even though none had any authority or relevant experience to do so, and most importantly, they were not Senate confirmed. The latest story includes additional emails that detail just how far the scandal goes. Notably, the three men reviewed a confidential draft of a $10 billion government contract for the Electronic Records Project, even though they lack any relevant expertise. Well, those released emails also show Moskowitz tried to push the VA to partner with Apple Inc. to use an app that Moskowitz himself wrote. Wow. Even though the VA identified serious problems with the app and tried to propose better ways to partner with Apple. These guys are like, look, we're here. We want our cut. You want to work in this neighborhood? We'll come here and protect you. You don't want protection? We can't be held responsible about what will happen to you, even right now. After the VA went in another direction, ProPublica notes, Moskowitz was still fuming about it months later. These new emails come to light just days after Independent Government Accountability Office, the GAO, what's wrong with me today, agreed to a request from Senators Elizabeth Warren and Brian Schatz to open an investigation into the scandal. Ranking Democrat on the House of Veterans Affairs Committee, Tim Waltz, said the whole situation just reeks of corruption. Really? I got to tell you go to Mar-a-Lago? Yeah, it reeks. The Mar-a-Lago mess isn't even the first scandal to hit the VA during Trump's corrupt tenure. The first VA Secretary, David Shulkin, left in disgrace after investigations revealed that he and his wife accepted unethical gifts, including Wimbledon tickets. Wow. And of course, VA scandals are just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to Trump's unending culture of corruption. Really now. And Republicans have turned a blind eye to scandal after scandal to protect Trump. But I got to tell you, it's not just to protect Trump. It's to protect their own rear ends. Because we all know they're awash in Russian rubles. Why else would they act so, I don't know, seditiously? Barnes of Think Progress brings us this next offering here in the Bistro Cafe of West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. Gavin McInnes' stock has been tanking recently. In October, members of the Proud Boys, a far-right group which McInnes founded, brutally attacked counter-protesters outside the Metropolitan Republican Club in New York City, where McInnes had been delivering a speech. The outrage generated by the attack caused the NYPD to crack down, and McInnes was forced to help arrange the surrender to the police of several Proud Boys accused of the assault. A fortnight ago, McInnes publicly announced that he had quit the Proud Boys, saying that he hoped the gesture could help alleviate their sentencing. He made the announcement just 2 days after The Guardian revealed the FBI had categorized the Proud Boys as an extremist group with ties to white nationalism. Since the arrests, the Proud Boys have been falling apart and are beset by infighting. McInnes himself, however, appears to be doing just fine. On Monday, CNN reported he would be joining Blaze Media, a new conservative media company that merges The Blaze and CRTV. Gavin McInnes is a comedian and provocateur, Blaze's media co-president Gaston Mooney told CNN. He is one of the many varied voices and viewpoints on Blaze Media platforms. Blaze Media was founded, or actually co-founded, by Glenn Beck, who repeatedly advocated conspiracy theories, do you think, during his time as a Fox News pundit, and also famously said that Obama had a deep-seated hatred for white people. He hated his mom. In recent years, and coincidentally as Beck's media startups flounder, Beck has appeared almost apologetic, reportedly blaming himself for increasing the country's political divisions and paranoia. Actually, I think it precluded Glenn Beck, but he was riding the gravy train, and he's trying to ride it again, isn't he now? With the hiring of McInnes, it seems clear Beck has not learned his lesson. Blaze Media's second co-founder is conservative commentator Mark Levin, who founded Levin TV, which later morphed into CRTV. Tens of millions of Americans have had it with the biased, ideologically driven mainstream media outlets that sanctimoniously advance their own agendas under the guise of news and journalism, Levin told Town Hall recently. Conservatives actually believe in a free press and the rest of the Constitution, whatever that is. The announcement of McInnes' new gig was made just 3 days after he was denied a visa to Australia on the grounds of bad character, a decision that he did not appeal. Because it would hurt his brand now, wouldn't it? Dapper Nazis still have to be, a little edgy. More than 81,000 Australians signed a petition asking for McInnes to be banned from the country, which he was attempting to visit, to take part in a speaking tour with Milo Yiannopoulos and British far-right figure Tommy Goosestep Robinson. Brings us this final offering here in the Bistro Cafe at West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy, Tarrytown Chowder Tuesdays. Well, it looks like New Jersey is pushing back against ICE. They put out a statement that they don't respond to threats from ICE when they're focused on protecting New Jersey's residents from harm. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, otherwise known as ICE, has responded to new pro-immigrant law enforcement policies implemented by the state of New Jersey with a veiled threat of more raids. Yeah, God. One day after New Jersey Attorney General Gruber Grubal unveiled the state's new Immigrant Trust Directive, a spokesperson for the ICE office in Newark told NBC New York in a statement that ICE raids will likely increase as a result of the directive. The probability is that at-large arrests and worksite enforcement operations, which already exist, will likely increase due to the fact that ICE will no longer have the cooperation of the jails related to immigration enforcement. ICE spokesman Amelia Dubal told the outlet in an email, adding, "The highest priority is public safety and enforcing immigration laws. We must pursue that to the best extent possible, which will likely involve more at-large arrests and worksite enforcement operations." Oh, really? In other words, they're going to come down, bust down your doors of your business until the state starts paying up like they're supposed to. The Immigrant Trust Directive is the nation's most comprehensive set of pro-immigrant law enforcement policies, going further than even states like California, Oregon, and Illinois in protecting undocumented immigrants in their interactions with state police. As previously reported, the directive would prevent New Jersey police from stopping, questioning, arresting, searching, or detaining any individual based solely on actual or suspected immigration status, or asking the immigration status of any individual unless doing so is necessary to the ongoing investigation of a serious offense. In other words, no show me your papers, please, by these, well, let's be clear, SA Gestapo. The directive would also prohibit police from participating in immigration raids or U.S. immigration and customs enforcement operations, limit when and how immigration enforcement agents can enter local jails, and require police officers to notify individuals in custody of their rights with regards to immigration. Prohibit New Jersey law enforcement agencies from entering, renewing, or extending 287G contracts, which allow police officers to act as immigration enforcement, unless the Attorney General grants written approval for each individual officer. Establishes new guidelines for how police officers must respond to and support immigrant crime victims who cooperate with police officers, and I said no. We don't want that. We're locking them all up. We have the gulags in place. We can't let it go to waste now, can we? And they're working hard to make sure they fill them up. Like we kept telling everybody, I told you so. Let's get to our break, and when we come back, we will go through weather from around the world, because we always do. And we always finish up with the stories that we have curated for you today. You are listening to West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy, and we will be right back.
You are listening to netrootsradio.com.
Please hang up and try again.
From a point at sea to the circles of your mind, a new force is at work for planetary transformation. New radio for a new Earth.
This is Scientific American's 60-Second Science. I'm Christopher Intagliata. You've probably seen those little cards in hotel rooms. Towel on the floor if you want a fresh one. Towel on the rack if you'll use it again. And using towels more than once means less laundry, which saves water and energy. But you don't pay the utility bills at the hotel, so do you really care? Well, a new study in the journal Nature Energy suggests hotel guests really are motivated to conserve for factors other than money.
The study actually shows that even if people have zero financial benefits, they still respond to this kind of feedback for environmental reasons.
Verena Tiefenbeck studies information systems research and behavioral economics at the Swiss Federal Institute of Technology in Zurich. Her team studied the lodger energy use issue by installing smart shower meters in 6 Swiss hotels, 265 rooms in all. The meters displayed an ongoing tally of water and energy use as guests were washing up. 20,000 showers later, the scientists found that their simple intervention encouraged guests to use 11% less energy per shower. That's compared to guests in a control group who simply saw the water temperature displayed on the meter. This finding probably won't revolutionize the bottom line for hotels, though. Each smart meter would save a hotel only about $20 a year. But in homes, where most people take most of their showers, the savings actually could add up for the individual. And devices like these could help consumers focus their efforts where they matter most.
Most people think that they should switch off the lights, which isn't the most effective thing to do, and they don't know that the actual big end users would be space heating and water heating.
So now you know. Even without a smart device, if you want to cut your energy bill, try lathering up just a little bit faster. Of course, if you're staying at the Bates Motel, maybe skip the shower altogether. Thanks for listening. For Scientific American's 60-Second Science, I'm Christopher Intagliata.
Hi, it's Tom. Could we humbly suggest your donation to netrootsradio.com? All we've got to run this 24-hour powerhouse of progressive resistance radio is what comes out of our own wallets. And you are our biggest donor. And it doesn't take much, $3, $5. Just go to the bottom of our netrootsradio.com page and hit our secure donate button. Heck, you can even make a recurring contribution. And you'll get a wondiferous pair of Netroots radio stickers for application to your backpack, your bumper sticker, or your banjo. Well, it's up to you which backpack you want to put it on. So donate what you'd like at the bottom of our netrootsradio.com's homepage. Because you are our biggest donor. Netrootsradio.com. Together, we are Resistance Radio.
Show me your papers, your citizenship papers. I'm Bill Newman, and this is the Civil Liberties Minute. Testimony in the Census Citizenship Question Trial has been completed. The issue being litigated in the federal court in Manhattan is whether Commerce Secretary Wilbur Ross acted legally and constitutionally when he unilaterally added a question on citizenship to the 2020 census. The plaintiffs, many civil rights organizations, maintain that Ross crossed the legal line and that the citizenship question will result in a significant undercount of non-citizens, including lawful permanent residents and minorities and immigrants, all contrary to the constitutional requirement of an accurate census every 10 years. Interestingly, the government actually agrees about the effect of including that question. The Census Bureau itself conservatively estimates that including the question will reduce voluntary responses by about 6 million. Nevertheless, the government says that the Commerce Secretary has the virtual unreviewable discretion to include the question for any reason he deems sufficient. Federal Judge Jesse Furman will decide the case soon. But his written decision will not be the last words on this case. Legal experts expect the case to go on a fast track to the Supreme Court. The Civil Liberties Minute is made possible by the ACLU because freedom can't protect itself.
I read the news today, oh boy.
It's time for Nicole Sandler's What's News from NicoleSandler.com and the Progressive Voices Network.
The nation's 41st president, George H.W. Bush, is lying in state again Tuesday at the U.S. Capitol, where the public is paying respect. A funeral service will be held Wednesday at the Washington National Cathedral. The 2018 midterms are now history, except in one small North Carolina congressional district. There's strong evidence emerging that Republicans stole a congressional seat in North Carolina by destroying, falsifying, and manipulating absentee ballots. CNN's John Avlon explained.
First incumbent Congressman Robert Pittenger narrowly lost the primary to a pastor named Mark Harris, who gained some national attention for statements like wives should submit to their husbands and his belief that the earth is less than 10,000 years old. Now, after the general election, it looked like Harris eked out a 905-vote win over Democrat and former Marine Dan McCready at around 250,000 cast. But late last week, the North Carolina Board of Elections voted across party lines to postpone certification of Harris as the winner. Something's rotten in the North Carolina 9th. Specifically, the rural counties of Bladen and Robeson. Now, both had much higher than average requests for absentee ballots. Nothing sinister there. But a whopping 40% of absentee ballots requested by African Americans were never returned, according to the Raleigh News and Observer. That's compared with just 17% of white voters' ballots. Now, a local political blogger named Michael Blitzer analyzed the absentee ballot returns in impressive detail, and he found that Harris won more than 61% of absentee votes in Bladen County, but with just 19% of those ballots being from registered Republicans. Blitzer determined that, quote, Harris would have also received almost all the unregistered unaffiliated voters and some Democrat registered voters to make it to 62% of the vote. This is perhaps possible, but extremely unlikely. So was Harris's performance in the primary, where he claimed 96% of absentee ballots in Bladen. In addition, so far 6 official complaints have been filed, including at least 2 alleging that their ballots were collected unsealed by a stranger, which is not just frowned upon, but illegal. All this is shady and definitely deserving of further investigation. Now, the vote for the Republican has so many irregularities that there could end up being a new election, which is possibly why we haven't heard boo about it from the president yet.
After the Democrats won big in Wisconsin, Republicans are using the lame duck session to strip the incoming winners of power. Rachel Maddow has more.
In Wisconsin, Democrats did really, really well in the midterm elections. Democrats won all the big statewide races. They won all the state stuff. Secretary of State, State Treasurer, Attorney General. At the top of the ticket, Democrat Tony Evers won as well. He beat 2-term Republican Governor Scott Walker. Along the way, Wisconsin Democrats won a majority of votes for the state assembly, state legislature. They won by a margin of 8 points. But that's where Wisconsin Democrats hit a snag because of the way Republicans in Wisconsin have gerrymandered the districts in the state. Even though the Democrats got more votes in the assembly, they won by 8 points in terms of votes for assembly seats. But still, Republicans won most of the seats. Republicans won 45% of the votes for state assembly. That earned them 64% of the seats. Now, in the brief span between the election and the time this Democrat is about to take over as governor, Wisconsin Republicans are doing everything they can think of to take away power from the incoming Democratic administration. And Wisconsin Republicans are doing this openly and with haste. They want to make the new attorney general report to them instead of reporting to the Democratic governor. They want to make it harder for the Democratic governor to issue rules. Also, having learned their lesson from the last election, Wisconsin Republicans want to dial back early voting. That was a problem. A lot of people voted. They also want to move important elections to unexpected times. That might result in lower turnout, would also cost the state nearly $7 million extra to implement. But no expense spared. Wisconsin Republicans are using this lame duck session to all of a sudden do everything they can at any cost to strip power from the Democrats who just beat them really badly in the elections in November. They're trying to make sure that Democrats don't gain any more ground and they don't have any power that the Republicans can keep them from having to use. This is the new Republican playbook in the states. It's playing out right now in Wisconsin in a hearing that has continued into the night tonight at the Wisconsin State Capitol.
In Michigan, meanwhile, Republicans introduced bills late last week to diminish the powers of the incoming Democratic governor, Secretary of State, and Attorney General as well. The Democratic victories for those 3 positions last month set the stage for Michigan Democrats to control those 3 seats for the first time in nearly 3 decades. One of the final acts of Republicans in the House and Senate of the 115th Congress will be to allow the Violence Against Women Act to expire before their recess. It was already given an extension until December 7th, when it was originally up on September 30th. It's now been extended until the 21st. Republicans decided not to use the opportunity to reauthorize the bill ahead of the 2018 midterm elections. Some of the mystery surrounding the Mueller investigation may finally be lifted this week. Some critical court filings focusing on Trump's first national security advisor, Michael Flynn, are due Tuesday. And documents related to his ex-campaign chairman, Paul Manafort, and attorney Michael Cohen are set to be released by the end of the week. The filings, in the form of sentencing memos, could offer some key new details about the investigation, and they could be damaging to Donald Trump. And that's a bit of what's news for now. I'm Nicole Sandler. If you appreciate these reports and the Nicole Sandler Show, I hope you'll consider making a contribution. My work is 100% listener supported, and I can't do it without your help. Find out more at NicoleSandler.com/donate.
From United Nations headquarters in New York, I'm Luke Vargas with your World in 2 minutes. Top Iranian officials said Tuesday it would be pointless to meet with President Trump a day after the U.S. leader offered to meet his Iranian counterpart without preconditions.
President Trump appears to be trying to replicate his North Korea negotiating strategy with Iran. But the problem here is that the Iranian politics is more complicated than North Korea.
Ahmed Majidyar directs the Iran Observe Project at the Middle East Institute in Washington.
I don't see President Rouhani just sit down. That would be a political suicide for him back home.
That's because Rouhani spent years promising that a nuclear deal would deliver economic relief to Iran, but that relief never came, and Rouhani is left with little room to deal now. Sina Tusi is a research associate at the National Iranian-American Council.
Unfortunately, right now, there is no low-hanging fruit in U.S.-Iran relations or potential negotiations. And the primary reason is that Trump, by violating the Iran nuclear deal and withdrawing from it, he really eviscerated Iranian trust in the United States.
Tusi says if Trump really wants the Iranian meeting, it's on him to rebuild any lost trust.
He could potentially give that confidence to international banks and businesses and remove U.S. sanctions, allow Iran to get the benefits from the deal, and that could be used as a stepping stone for broader negotiations.
But instead, Trump has toggled rapidly between military threats and offers of dialogue. Nasan Rafati is an Iran analyst at the International Crisis Group.
That kind of mixed messaging doesn't necessarily instill a great deal of willingness to put their own necks on the line once again.
A better option for Iran, says Rafati, is to steer clear of Trump's mercurial foreign policy instincts and focus on countries still abiding by the nuclear deal.
They're trying to maximize their relations with the rest of the international community rather than banking too much on the possibility of a grand bargain or a significant breakthrough between Washington and Tehran.
Luke Vargas, the United Nations.
Thank you for accompanying us here to the Chef's Table at West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy Tarrytown Chowder Tuesdays. We always begin, weather from around the world, along the banks of the Rogue River and the Rogue River Valley of Southern Oregon on the west coast of the continental United States of America, where it is currently 29 degrees Fahrenheit. A very crusty morning, as they say. You step on the grass and it crunches. Yes, though we are expected to be a tad warmer today than yesterday, with a high of about 48, 49. We were probably around 44 yesterday. Overnight lows will again be in the low 30s, probably upper 20s, as they are here at the mothership. Winds right now are light and variable out of the northeast. Will pick up in just a couple of hours to 5 to 10 miles per hour after shifting out of the east. Will remain so. 5 to 10 miles per hour for all day, and then tonight will remain out of the direction, out of the east at light and variable, continuing till tomorrow. Dry conditions will continue, a small possibility of rain in the offering, though we are expected copious amounts of water from the sky this weekend. Pollen is considered to be none, and that means that they've rated it as none. They measured. Air quality index is at 65 in the caution range at 65 parts per million. The soon-to-be winter daytime UV index is in the low green level at 1. Barometric pressure is rising at 30.14 inches. Visibility is up to 10 miles, and relative humidity is at 74%. Weather from around the world is brought to you by people's personal weather stations that they purchased. These people planted these purchased personal weather stations somewhere on their property, and these people positively live around the world. Okay, that's my P-tape. London is 45 degrees and fair. Paris is 51 and mostly cloudy. Rome is 63 degrees and sunny. What the hell? Kiev is 36 and cloudy. Kabul is 33 and clear. Hong Kong is 71 degrees and partly cloudy. Tokyo is 67 and partly cloudy. Sydney, Australia, getting into their summer, is at 64 and cloudy. San Francisco, California is 50 degrees, mostly cloudy, with a small craft advisory on the bay. Gusts getting up to about 50 miles per hour. Take care on the bay in San Francisco. And New York is 40 degrees Fahrenheit, mostly cloudy. And New York has a small craft advisory as well. So hold on to your hats, batten down the hatches, tuck in and keep warm. And that is weather from around the world, brought to you by people's personal weather stations that they purchased. These people planted these purchased personal weather stations somewhere on their property. And these people positively live around the world. Schroeder of Writers brings us this first amuse-bouche here at the chef's table at West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. Dateline, Washington. Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell's testimony to Congress's Joint Economic Committee on Wednesday has been postponed and will be rescheduled at a later date, the committee said yesterday. However, the Federal Reserve still plans to release its beige book, a summary of the state of U.S. business across the central bank's 12 regional districts, as scheduled tomorrow, Wednesday. Powell was slated to discuss the economic outlook with the panel, but Wednesday was declared a national day of mourning following the death of former President George H.W. Bush. No new date for the rescheduled testimony has been announced. The Fed said its Washington offices will be closed on Wednesday, but that its payment systems will operate normally.
Je te donne c'est mon amour pour la vie entière. La promesse de me trouver à tes genoux. Aussitôt que tu m'appelles, rester toujours fidèle. C'est tout, c'est tout. Je te donne tous mes printemps, mes étés de mer. Mes automnes, quand les feuilles tombent partout. Si ce n'est pas une bonne affaire, je te donne tous mes hivers, c'est tout.
Joey Roulette, also of Reuters, brings us this final offering here at the chef's table at West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. Tarrytown Chowder, Tuesdays. NASA's Deep Space Explorer, Osiris-Rex, flew on Monday to within a dozen miles of its destination, a skyscraper-sized asteroid believed to hold organic compounds fundamental to life, as well as the potential to collide with Earth in a catastrophic event in about 150 years. Great. Launched in September of 2016, Osiris embarked on NASA's unprecedented 7-year mission to conduct a close-up survey of the asteroid Bennu, collect a sample from its surface, and return that material to Earth for study. Okay, I'm sorry, I scanned that one a little too quick. They're on a 7-year mission, and it took them, well, a couple of years to get there. Bennu, a rocky mass roughly 1/3 of a mile wide and shaped like a giant acorn, orbits the sun at roughly the same distance as Earth, and is thought to be rich in carbon-based organic molecules dating back to the earliest days of the solar system. Hi, it's Mom and Dad! Water, another vital component to the evolution of life, may also be trapped in the asteroid's minerals. Hi, it's family. They're coming to visit. Scientists believe that asteroids and comets crashing into early Earth delivered organic compounds and water that seeded the planet for life. An atomic-level analysis of samples from Bennu could help prove that theory. But there is another more existential reason to study Bennu. Because Mom and Dad are sometimes coming like, they help, but they're a little rough in their help, aren't they? Yeah. Scientists estimate there is a 1 in 2,700 chance of the asteroid slamming catastrophically into Earth 166 years from now. That probability ranks Bennu number 2 on the NSA's catalog of 72 near-Earth objects potentially capable of hitting the planet. So they're telling us number 2, but they're not going to tell us about number 1. Osiris-Rex will help scientists understand how heat radiated from the sun is gently steering Bennu on an increasingly menacing course through the solar system. That solar energy is believed to be nudging the asteroid ever closer and ever closer, inch by inch, foot by foot, mile by mile, closer to Earth's path each time the asteroid makes its closest approach to our planet every 6 years. Scientists have estimated that in 2135, Bennu could pass closer to Earth than the Moon, which orbits at a distance of about 250,000 miles. And it's probably going to get closer between 2175 and 2195. Now, Osiris-Rex will later fly back to Earth, jettisoning a capsule bearing the asteroid specimen for a parachute descent in the Utah desert in September of 2023. Hopefully that'll give us enough time to, our great-great-grandchildren can either get off the planet or steer that mother away. That brings us to the end of our broadcast period for the day, but you know that Netroots Radio broadcasts on 24/7, 365. We will visit with you tomorrow for Smothered Benedict Wednesdays. With an asteroid on his way, we better start praying and then get to work. How about that? So do stay tuned to Netroots Radio all day and all night for all the breaking news as it breaks. And we will visit with you right here tomorrow in West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. Bon appetit.
Je voudrais du soleil vert, des dentelles et des théières, des photos de bord de mer, dans mon jardin d'hiver. Je voudrais de la lumière, comme en Nouvelle-Angleterre. Je veux changer d'atmosphère, dans mon jardin d'hiver. À fleurs sous la pluie de novembre, tes mains qui courent, je n'en peux plus de t'attendre. Les années passent, qu'il est loin, là je tombe. Nul ne peut nous entendre. Je voudrais du Fred Astaire, revoir un latte coeur. Je voudrais toujours te plaire dans mon jardin d'hiver. Je veux déjeuner par terre comme au long de golfe clair, t'embrasser les yeux ouverts dans mon jardin d'hiver. Ma robe à fleurs sous la pluie d'un novembre, tes mains qui courent, je n'en peux plus de retendre. Les années passent, il est loin l'âge tendre, nul ne peut nous entendre. Ba-da-da-dum-di-da-dum, 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 dans mon jardin d'hiver. Ba-da-da-dum-di-da-dum, 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 dans mon jardin d'hiver. Dans mon jardin d'hiver, dans mon jardin d'hiver.